blocking out our time with God. Then next, prioritizing means cutting out non-essentials. Turn to your neighbor on the left and say, cut out your non-essentials. Turn to your neighbor on your right and say, cut out those non-essentials.
Cut out the non-essentials.
All right. So we got to cut out the unnecessary stuff. Jesus said in the story that we read, Mary has chosen what is better. What is better. So in life, apparently, there's some things that are good, and there's some things that are better. Would you agree with that? Amen. Some things are good to spend our time on, but then there's things that are better to spend our time on. The original Greek language actually says, Mary has chosen the good portion. The good portion. How many of you have ever seen the show Man vs. Food? There's a host called Adam. His name is Adam. He goes all around the country. And one time he was in Oklahoma City, and he was at this steakhouse in Oklahoma City. And George Bush Sr. had eaten there and said the steak was so good, you guys should call this the presidential steak. And so they did. They named it that. So Adam's there. He's here to try the presidential steak and see how good it is. And the guy who's about to do the cooking of the steak holds up 2 slabs of meat, 2 T-bones. And he says, which one do you want? Which one of these do you want? I'll cook either one of them for you. And he goes, well, I'll take the one on the left. It's got more meat on it. Like, isn't that what all of us would pick? Yeah, give me the one with more meat on it. I want that steak. He chose the good portion. When Mary was sitting and listening at the feet of Jesus, Jesus said she has chosen the good portion, the good thing. She made a choice. She could be serving or she could be spending time with Jesus. Sometimes you have to make some cuts. You can't do it all. You have to make some cuts and say, okay, I can't do it all. What are the most important things? And some of these things have to go. How many of you have ever heard the saying that sometimes good is the enemy of the best? You ever heard that? Sometimes good things are the enemies of the best things. You can get wrapped up in so many good things that you don't have any time left for the best things. Like people are, washing your car. That's not a bad thing. Right? Washing your car, that's a good thing. I probably could stand to wash my car right now. But washing your car is not a bad thing. But if all you do is washing your car, or you wash your car and never spend time with God, then it becomes a bad thing. Watching TV isn't a bad thing necessarily. But if you're just so consumed with watching TV all the time and that's cutting out of your time of spending time with God or His people, then that's a problem. Working to pay your bills is not a bad thing. That's a good thing to do. We should work. We should, the Bible says we should work and not just be a slouch, But sometimes you can get obsessed with work and it takes your time with God. If work is interfering with your time with God, that's not good. Even doing service for God can turn into a bad thing. If all you're doing is serving and doing, but you're not stopping and sitting and listening and learning. And Christianity is all about a relationship. God wants us to be with Him. Just be with me, He says. How many of you have ever seen the show Hoarders? Seen that show where these people are literally addicted to stuff, to collecting stuff? I've only ever seen one episode of this show, but it was just so weird to me. This lady is giving a tour of her house, and she's pointing out that to her, in her mind, any open space in her house is room for something else. So she's like, see this space between the refrigerator and this cabinet right here? I saw that space and I knew it had to be filled, so I bought this and I put it in a spot. And then she's like, see the space between this and this? That to me needed to be filled, so I bought this and put it in its spot. And to her, every open space was an opportunity for more stuff. Now, most of us would look at that and we would say, okay, this lady has gone overboard. True? Like, she has gone overboard. Most of us can look at a room and say, this room only has enough room for X amount of things, right? Anything more than that is overboard. And yet, when we look at the room of our lives, it's like we don't have that same sense of, okay, I've done too much. I've packed my room, my life too much. It's gone overboard.
Amen.
You know, we see every open space in our schedule for a chance to jam something in there. Right? So we just keep jamming more things. Okay, well, there's an open space in my schedule. I'll jam it full of this. Here's an open space, and we just pack it full until we run ourselves absolutely ragged. We run ourselves ragged. And we need to make some cuts and replace them with time with God and others. So this coronavirus, guys, you know, it's been weird. Strange times, right? And for some of us, it's been a time, some of us are going to be the exception to this rule. Some of us, the coronavirus actually caused us to be more busy. But for some of us, all the activities that we normally stay busy with got shut down, right? No sports, no dance, no gymnastics, no anything, right? And we've finally gotten to see what it's like when we just take it a little easy. When we're not running from this thing to that thing constantly. Here's the challenge, guys. Here's the challenge. Is when things open back up, are we going to just allow ourselves to be, you know, dragged away by all these things again? To where our schedule's so packed full we're running ourselves ragged. Or you can make the decision today to cut some things out before they happen. And say, no, we're not going back to that. We're going to keep room for God and for time with others in our life. Amen. Ephesians 5:15 says, Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. We have to be wise about how we spend our time. And so on your next steps, on the back of your Connect card, we have figure out things to cut out during normal life activities. When life resumes as normal, what things are we going to cut out? Think through those things. Say, I don't want to go back to the craziness that used to be my life. I want it to be different. I want it to be better this time. What things can you cut out? And then the next one is make a time budget. And some of you are like, what in the world is a time budget? Well, it's just like you budget out your money. Most people have no clue how they spend their money because they've never written it down on paper. This money goes to this, and this money goes to this. It's just kind of wherever my money goes. They don't know where their money goes. In the same way, a lot of people have never put how they spend their time on paper. They've never mapped it out, how they're going to spend their week. And if we're going to live this abundant life that Jesus has promised us, I believe we're going to have to be intentional of mapping out our time so that it's spent the best it can be. So that we get those most important things in there first. We put those things in there first into our weekly calendar. If you want that calendar, I can email it to you. It's an Excel document. It's already pre-made. All you have to do is personalize it. It's color-coded by the activities. It's easy. If you want it, let me know, and I'll send you that document. All right? So then we'll close with this. The benefit of carving out time for God is peace.